Blood dripped from General Thex's palm where his claws had dug in from tension. He stood before the Imperial Council, knowing his next words could save billions of lives or end his career. Around him, the council chamber's crystal walls reflected infinite copies of his worried face. "My lords," he began, "I come with a warning about a species that will either become our greatest allies or destroy our empire entirely." A ripple of laughter echoed through the chamber. These pampered lords in their gold-trimmed robes hadn't seen real combat in centuries. They hadn't watched good soldiers die. "Show us this great threat," High Lord Wells sneered, lounging on his floating throne. Thex activated his holoprojector. The chamber darkened, and images of Earth filled the air. The council members watched as scenes of human warfare played out before them. Ancient battles with swords and shields, modern conflicts with tanks and planes, and their first steps into space. "Observe," Thex said, highlighting key moments. In just 100 years, they went from horse-drawn carriages to walking on their moon. In 200 years, from simple guns to weapons that can crack planets, while we spent 1,000 years perfecting one type of weapon, they created dozens. "Primitive toys," Lady Swift interrupted, waving the jeweled hand. "Their ships can barely reach their own system's edge." Thex's eyes glowed with intensity. "Yes, they appear primitive. That's what makes them so dangerous. We fight with rules, with honor, with proper tactics. Humans," he laughed darkly, "humans fight to win." He showed new images, human soldiers adapting enemy weapons, turning farming tools into deadly weapons, surviving in impossible conditions. "Their planet tried to kill them countless times," Thex continued. "Look at their worlds. Crushing gravity, deadly predators, extreme temperatures. Everything on their planet is lethal. And yet they dominated it all. They turned their weaknesses into strengths." An aide rushed in, interrupting the presentation. "General, emergency report from the Outer Rim." Thex read the report, his scaled face paling. "Just now, one of our patrols fired on a human exploration ship. They thought it would be an easy kill." His voice turned grim. "The human ship escaped after doing this." New images appeared. An Imperial patrol ship with massive holes torn through its supposedly impenetrable shields. The council members finally stopped smiling. "Impossible," someone shouted. "Those were just primitive projectile weapons." "Exactly," Thex said. "We weren't ready for projectiles because we thought energy weapons were superior. The humans took our greatest strength, our shield technology, and made it worthless with simple chunks of metal moving at incredible speeds." He walked closer to the council, breaking protocol. "Don't you see? Every time we think we understand humans, they surprise us. They don't follow proper military doctrine. They don't fight fair. They adapt, improvise, and overcome." The council chamber fell silent as Thex showed his final simulation. Potential conflict scenarios with humanity. Even with the Empire's superior technology, the projected losses were staggering. "We've grown soft," he concluded, his voice echoing in the silence. "We've forgotten what it's like to fight an enemy who doesn't care about looking elegant or proper. Humans will use every trick, every dirty tactic, every desperate move they can think of. And they'll think of many we haven't even imagined." High Lord Wells stood, his face dark with anger. "Thank you, General. We will consider your warning." Dismissed. As Thex walked out, he already heard them planning the invasion. They wouldn't listen. They never did, but he knew it was coming. The first real challenge the Empire had faced in 1,000 years. That night, in his quarters, he began writing a new report, Understanding Human Warfare, a guide to surviving what comes next. The Empire's greatest war was about to begin, and only Thex seemed to realize they might not win it. Commander Pike stood on the bridge of the Imperial warship Star Blade, watching the strange ship on his screen. It was ugly by Imperial standards. All sharp angles and exposed parts, nothing like the smooth, elegant designs of the Empire. The human vessel was called Horizon Explorer, according to his translation system. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "the human ship is continuing its survey mission. They haven't noticed us yet." Pike smiled. He had heard about General Thex's warning to the Council, and he thought it was nonsense. These humans didn't look so special. Their ship was using basic ion engines, and their weapons were primitive projectile systems. This was his chance to prove himself. "Weapons, target their engines," Pike ordered. "Let's show these primitives what real power looks like." "Sir," his second officer spoke up. General Thex's orders were clear. "We should make peaceful contact first." Pike waved his hand dismissively. "General Thex is getting old and soft. The Empire wasn't built on peaceful contact. It was built on strength." The Starblade moved out of its hiding spot behind an asteroid. Its weapons powered up, the purple glow of plasma cannons lighting up space. On the Horizon Explorer, Captain Wilson was recording her daily log when the alarms went off. "Unknown ship detected," her tactical officer shouted. "Energy readings are off the charts. They're charging weapons." Wilson didn't hesitate. "All hands, battle stations. Engineering, get ready to push the engines past safety limits. We might need to run." The first plasma bolt hit before they could raise shields. The Horizon Explorer shook violently. Hull breaches opened on 2 decks, but emergency force fields snapped into place, a technology the Empire didn't know humans had developed. "Return fire," Wilson ordered. "Show them what old-fashioned human engineering can do." The Horizon Explorer's railguns spun up, launching tungsten rounds at near-light speed. Pike watched in shock as these primitive projectiles punched clean through his ship's energy shields. "Impossible," he shouted. "Their weapons are just metal slugs." "Sir," his damage control officer reported, "they're using kinetic energy weapons. Our shields are designed for energy attacks." The human ship was already moving, performing maneuvers that seemed to ignore the normal rules of space combat. Instead of the graceful, calculated moves the Empire used, they were flying like there was no tomorrow. Wilson's voice crackled through the ship's comm. "Engineering, reroute power from life support to the engines. We can breathe thin air for a few minutes if it means getting out alive." Pike watched in disbelief as the human ship's engines suddenly glowed much brighter than should have been possible. They were modifying their engine output in real time, something Imperial engineers said couldn't be done safely. "Sir," his sensor officer yelled, "they're going to." The Horizon Explorer shot forward at impossible speed, its hull groaning but holding together. They vanished into the darkness of space, leaving behind a badly damaged Imperial warship. Pike stood in silence, looking at the damage reports. His perfect ship had holes punched straight through it. 3 crew members were dead, and the humans had escaped with data about Imperial weapons and shields. Back on Earth, Wilson's report caused an emergency meeting of the World Space Council. The room was tense as she showed them the scans of the Imperial ship. "They attacked without warning," she said. "Their technology is far beyond ours in most ways. But we hurt them. We proved they're not invincible." The council leader leaned forward. "You believe this is just the beginning?" Wilson nodded. "They wanted to teach us a lesson about staying in our place. Instead, they taught us something else, their weaknesses." Engineers were already studying the battle data, designing new weapons and defenses. Factories began retooling for war production. Humanity had faced threats before, and they knew what to do. In his quarters on a distant Imperial base, General Thex received the battle report. He read it with a heavy heart, knowing that Pike's foolish action had started something that couldn't be stopped. The humans would respond, and the Empire wasn't ready for what was coming. The war that would change the galaxy had begun with a single shot. 3 months after the first contact incident, the Imperial fleet moved against the human colonies. 500 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Terra, the largest human settlement outside Earth. The Empire expected an easy victory. They were wrong. General Thex watched the battle feeds from his new position, basically a fancy way of saying he'd been pushed aside. The Imperial Council had given command to Admiral Gray, who believed in overwhelming force. The colony's defenses are minimal, Gray announced to his fleet. We will show these humans the price of defiance. Begin the attack. The Imperial ships moved forward in perfect formation, their golden hulls shining in the starlight. The colony below had only a few defensive satellites and a small patrol fleet. It looked like an easy target. Then the mining platforms began to move. Admiral, a sensor officer called out, the humans are repositioning their mining stations. They appear to be. Oh no. The massive platforms, designed to break up asteroids, turned their industrial-grade cutting beams toward the Imperial fleet. Mining lasers, meant to slice through rock, proved just as effective against warship armor. Impossible, Gray shouted. Those are civilian structures. Thex, watching from his observation post, smiled sadly. I tried to tell you, he muttered. Humans turn everything into a weapon. The battle quickly turned messy. The Imperial ships, trained for formal fleet combat, struggled against opponents who didn't follow any normal rules of engagement. The humans had converted cargo ships into bombers, filled asteroids with explosives, and turned space junk into deadly weapons. But the Empire still had superior numbers and technology. After 6 hours of fighting, New Terra fell. Admiral Gray stood triumphant on his bridge, looking down at the burning colony. See, he said to his officers, they're not so special, just primitives with clever tricks. A junior officer rushed onto the bridge. Admiral, emergency transmission from the core worlds. The message was brief but terrifying. While the Empire had focused its fleet on New Terra, human ships had slipped past their defenses. Not warships, small fast vessels that the Empire's sensors had dismissed as space debris. They had penetrated deep into Imperial territory. How? Gray demanded. Their ships can't match our speed. A tactical display showed the truth. The humans had used the Empire's own supply lanes, hiding in cargo ships and merchant vessels. They had spread out across Imperial space like a virus. Back on Earth, the real human fleet was preparing for war. They had given up New Terra, but the loss had bought them valuable time and intelligence. Every refugee ship carried data about Imperial weapons and tactics. Every defeated colony had revealed something new about their enemy. In his private quarters, General Thex received an encrypted message from his few remaining friends in high command. The Empire had taken 3 human colonies now, but the cost was growing. Imperial citizens were panicking as reports spread of small human ships appearing anywhere, everywhere, striking without warning. The humans are relocating their major factories underground. The message read, they're dispersing their population. Our tactical computers can't predict their next move because they're not following any known military doctrine. Thex began writing in his personal log. The Empire makes the same mistake that every great power makes. They think the first battles tell the whole story. They don't understand that humans fight harder when they're losing. Each defeat teaches them. Each loss makes them more dangerous. On Earth, in a deep underground bunker, human military leaders gathered around a holographic map of the galaxy. They had spent decades preparing for alien contact, hoping for peace but ready for war. Now those preparations were paying off. The Empire thinks they're winning, General Stone told her staff. They've taken our outer colonies, so they think they know what we can do. But they haven't faced Earth yet. They haven't seen our real military. She pointed to the map, where thousands of small dots showed human ships moving into position. Let them celebrate their early victories. We're not trying to win battles. We're going to win the war. The Empire's fatal mistake wasn't attacking humanity. It was giving humanity time to learn how to fight back. The Imperial Council's emergency meeting was interrupted by a series of urgent reports. Admiral Gray's face appeared on the main screen, his usual confidence replaced by barely contained panic. They're everywhere, he reported, his voice shaking. We thought we had them contained, but Earth's main fleet, it's not what we expected. They're using technologies we've never seen before. The display showed scenes from various battles across the sector. Imperial ships, the pride of the galaxy, were being systematically taken apart by human vessels that seemed to appear and disappear at will. 6 hours ago, they launched what we thought was a desperate counterattack, Gray continued. Then we realized it was a trap. Their ships had some kind of stealth technology, not just cloaking. They were invisible to all our sensors. General Thex, watching from his small office where he'd been relegated, studied the footage carefully. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were revealing capabilities they had kept hidden for years. A new report flashed across all channels. Earth had deployed what they called their Ghost Fleet, warships built in secret underground facilities, equipped with technology specifically designed to counter Imperial weapons. Their ships are crude, one Imperial engineer reported, but ingenious. They've wrapped their hulls in materials that absorb our scanner beams. Their weapons are simple but effective. Kinetic rounds that ignore our shields, electronic warfare that crashes our systems. In Earth's main military command center, General Stone watched as her forces executed years of carefully planned strategies. Decades of studying alien transmissions, intercepting Imperial communications, and preparing for this exact scenario were finally paying off. "Launch Operation Hornet's Nest," she ordered. Across Imperial space, thousands of seemingly dead satellites suddenly activated. These weren't weapons. They were electronic warfare platforms, broadcasting signals that drove Imperial sensing equipment crazy. Their complex targeting systems became useless, while human weapons, guided by simple optical tracking, worked perfectly. "They're in our computers," an Imperial technician shouted during one battle. "The signals, they're using our own communication networks against us." The Empire had built its military around complex, interconnected systems. Humans, remembering centuries of cyber warfare on Earth, knew exactly how to exploit such networks. Even more shocking to the Empire was how humans had modified their own bodies. Imperial soldiers, boarding a damaged human ship, encountered troops in powered armor suits that made them incredibly strong. Some human soldiers had neural implants that let them interface directly with their weapons. "This is impossible," Admiral Gray muttered as another report came in. Their technology was primitive just months ago. How did they advance so quickly? The answer, which General Thex had tried to warn them about, was simple. Humans hadn't advanced quickly. They had been preparing for decades, hiding their true capabilities, waiting to reveal them when it mattered most. In orbit around Earth, the human fleet gathered for its biggest operation yet. Ships of all sizes, from tiny fighters to massive carriers, formed up in formations that made no sense to Imperial tacticians. They didn't follow any known strategy because humans had invented entirely new ways of fighting in space. "The Empire thinks war is about having the best technology," General Stone told her officers. "But we know better. War is about using what you have in ways your enemy doesn't expect." Each human ship carried weapons that looked crude, but had been carefully designed to exploit Imperial weaknesses. Railguns fired projectiles at speeds that energy shields couldn't handle. Electronic warfare systems turned the Empire's complex networks against them. Even the shapes of human ships were deliberate, designed to confuse Imperial targeting systems. In his office, General Thex finished another entry in his tactical analysis. The Empire's greatest mistake was believing that technological superiority guarantees victory. Humans proved that innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to break every rule are far more important. The final phase was about to begin. Humanity had absorbed the Empire's initial assault, learned from it, and now was ready to strike back with everything they had. This wasn't just a counterattack, it was the revelation of humanity's true military power. The sleeping giant was fully awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial supply ship Crown's Glory disappeared without a trace. Then another vanished, and another. Admiral Gray stood before the Imperial Council, trying to explain what was happening. "Somehow, the humans are attacking our supply lines," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "But we can't find their ships. It's like fighting ghosts." In a small Imperial observation post, General Thex reviewed the latest reports. He had warned them about human guerrilla tactics, but no one had listened. Now, they were learning the hard way. The display showed the Empire's losses over the past month. 47 supply ships missing, 23 fuel depots destroyed, 15 repair stations sabotage, hundreds of communication relays disabled. "Show us how they're doing this," the council leader demanded. Gray activated a hologram showing a recent attack. A small human ship appeared out of nowhere, struck quickly, and vanished again. But what shocked the council most was how the ship moved. "They're using our own jump points," Gray explained. "Somehow they've mapped our entire supply network. They're not trying to match our fleet's strength. They're bleeding us dry by cutting our supply lines." On her flagship, Thunderchild, General Stone studied a different kind of map. It showed the Empire's psychology more than its territory. Each red dot represented a point where Imperial forces had lost confidence, where their perfect order had cracked. "The Empire thinks war is about big fleets and noble battles," she told her staff. "We're teaching them that war is about breaking your enemy's will to fight." The humans had studied the Empire's rigid command structure, its dependence on complex supply chains, and its troops' psychological training. Then they had designed their attacks to exploit these weaknesses. Small human ships would appear suddenly near Imperial bases, not to attack, but to make the defenders feel watched. Propaganda broadcasts interrupted Imperial communications, telling soldiers about defeats in other sectors. Every Imperial victory was met with 3 surprising losses elsewhere. "Our soldiers are asking questions," an Imperial commander reported. "They don't understand why superior technology isn't winning this war. Morale is dropping." The Empire's responses became increasingly desperate. They sent massive fleets to protect supply lines, only to find the humans had already moved on to new targets. They fortified bases that were never attacked while critical supplies disappeared from safe routes. In one famous battle, a single human ship approached an Imperial fortress. The defenders expected an attack, but instead, the ship broadcast a simple message on all frequencies: "Look behind you." While the fortress's sensors focused forward, human infiltrators had already slipped inside through maintenance tunnels. By the time the Imperial troops realized what was happening, their own defense systems were being used against them. General Thex added another note to his growing analysis. "Humans understand that fear is a weapon. They don't need to destroy our fleet if they can make us afraid to use it." The turning point came at the Battle of Gateway Station. The Empire committed a third of its fleet to protect this crucial supply hub. They expected a massive human assault. Instead, they got a lesson in human deception. Small human ships darted in and out, drawing Imperial forces away from the station. The Empire's commanders, desperate for a decisive battle, took the bait. They chased the human ships, spreading their forces thin. Then the real attack came, not against the station, but against the Imperial capital ship's fuel supplies. By the time the Empire realized their mistake, their mighty fleet was stranded, unable to return home. "This is why we're winning," General Stone explained to Earth's leaders. "The Empire thinks about ships and weapons. We think about fuel, spare parts, and soldiers' minds. They fight the battles they can see. We fight the ones they don't expect." In his quarters, General Thex wrote what would become a famous line in his report. "The Empire has finally learned that the most dangerous weapon humans have isn't their technology or their tactics. It's their ability to make us defeat ourselves." The war wasn't over, but everyone could sense that something had changed. The invincible Empire was learning what it meant to feel afraid. In the deepest chamber of the Imperial Palace, the council gathered for a secret meeting. The room was dark, lit only by holographic displays showing their mounting losses. Admiral Gray was gone, replaced by Admiral Stone after his fleet's defeat. The new commander's first report was chilling. "We've lost 30% of our territory," he announced. "Our forces are scattered, supply lines cut, and morale is at its lowest point in Imperial history." High Lord Wells leaned forward, his face hard in the dim light. "Then we must use the final option. Prepare the planet killers." General Thex, monitoring the meeting through a secret channel provided by his few remaining allies, felt his heart stop. The planet killers were the Empire's most terrible weapons, capable of destroying entire worlds in minutes. "If humans won't submit to our rule," Wells continued, "they don't deserve to exist. We'll start with their outer colonies, make them watch as we destroy their worlds one by one." But Thex knew something the Council didn't. The humans had prepared for this too. During his years studying Earth's history, he had learned about their concept of mutually assured destruction. The humans would never let themselves be threatened without having a countermeasure. In his private quarters, Thex made the hardest decision of his life. He encoded a warning message and sent it through secret channels to Earth's military command. The message was brief: "Planet killers preparing. Multiple targets. You have 48 hours." On Earth, General Stone received the warning while reviewing battle plans. Her face showed no surprise, only grim determination. "Activate Operation Dead Hand," she ordered. Across human space, hidden weapons platforms came to life. For years, humans had been placing stealth satellites near every major Imperial world. They weren't planet killers. They were something the Empire feared even more. "Send the message," Stone commanded. Every Imperial communication channel suddenly activated. Screens across the Empire showed detailed images of their own worlds, taken by the hidden platforms. The message was simple: "We can reach you anywhere. Don't make us prove it." In the council chamber, panic erupted as the images appeared. "How did they get these?" someone shouted. "Those are live feeds of our homeworlds." Then came the second part of humanity's response. Small devices, hidden on Imperial worlds by undercover agents, activated. They didn't cause any damage. They simply revealed themselves on Imperial scanners, showing the Empire how vulnerable they truly were. "We found this in one of the devices," an Imperial security officer reported, holding up a simple metal sphere. "It's a data storage unit containing Earth's historical records of their own nuclear age. They're showing us they know exactly what it means to face extinction." General Thex, watching the chaos unfold, understood perfectly. Humans weren't just fighting the war in space. They had prepared for every possibility, including the worst one. In his secret log, he wrote, "The Empire thought they could threaten humans with extinction. Instead, humans showed us that any species willing to destroy worlds must be prepared to lose their own. They turned our greatest weapon into our greatest weakness." The Council's emergency session lasted for days. The planet killers remained in their hangars, their crews wondering if any victory was worth risking their own worlds. General Stone addressed Earth's leaders. "We didn't build these platforms to destroy Imperial worlds. We built them to prevent the Empire from destroying ours. Sometimes the best weapon is one you never have to use." The Empire faced a terrible choice: escalate to total war and risk everything, or accept that they couldn't simply erase humanity from the galaxy. High Lord Wells, his face gray with stress, finally spoke. "Shut down the planet killer program. The risk is too great." In his quarters, Thex received a secret message from Earth. It was brief but clear. "Thank you. Your warning saved billions of lives." He deleted the message immediately, knowing he had committed treason by Imperial law. But he also knew he had prevented a catastrophe that would have scared the galaxy forever. The Empire had finally learned that threatening extinction only works if your enemy fears death more than they love survival. With humans, that was never true. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Imperial Palace's surrender room was being used. Its white marble walls, designed to humble defeated enemies, now watched as the Empire's own leaders walked in with heads bowed. General Thex stood in a corner, no longer an outcast, but officially rehabilitated after his warning had prevented catastrophic losses on both sides. He watched as High Lord Wells took his place at the golden table, facing General Stone and Earth's diplomatic team. "In all our history," Wells began, his voice heavy, "we have never signed a surrender document, but we have never faced an enemy like humanity." General Stone's response was calm and measured. "This isn't a surrender, High Lord. It's a peace treaty. Humanity doesn't want to destroy the Empire. We just want you to understand that we can't be conquered." The terms were displayed on floating screens. The Empire would withdraw from all human territories. Trade routes would be established between both civilizations. Military technology would be shared to prevent future conflicts. A joint defense council would be formed. All Imperial planets would retain their independence. "You're not demanding our worlds?" Wells asked in surprise. "No," Stone replied. "Humans learned long ago that occupying unwilling populations leads to endless rebellion. We'd rather have peaceful neighbors than reluctant subjects." In the following days, as the treaty was formalized, General Thex found himself increasingly busy. Military academies across the Empire wanted him to teach about human warfare. His report, Understanding Human Warfare, became required reading for every Imperial officer. "The key lesson," he told the class of young officers, "isn't about humans' weapons or tactics. It's about their mindset. They don't fight for glory or empire. They fight to survive, to protect, and most importantly, to end the fight decisively." On Earth, celebrations were tempered with careful planning. Humanity had won, but they knew victory could breed complacency. General Stone addressed the World Council. "We won because we were prepared, because we studied our enemy, and because we never assumed technological superiority meant invincibility. We must remember these lessons." The first joint human-imperial military exercise was held 6 months later. Imperial officers watched in amazement as human soldiers turned simple tools into weapons, adapted to changing situations, and showed them new ways of thinking about warfare. "Your soldiers carry backup weapons that don't need power cells," an Imperial commander observed. "Why?" "Because anything can fail," the human instructor replied. "Better to have a simple backup than no backup at all." General Thex's final report to the Imperial Council became famous throughout the galaxy. The Empire's greatest mistake was not underestimating human technology. It was underestimating human determination. "We thought our superior technology made us unbeatable. Humans showed us that the mind of a warrior matters more than the weapons they carry. We thought war was about power. They showed us it's about adaptability. We thought victory came from strength. They proved it comes from wisdom. We thought we were teaching them their place in the galaxy. Instead, they taught us humility." Years later, when another alien race threatened the peace, they faced not just humanity, but a combined human imperial force that blended imperial technology with human innovation. The threat was ended quickly and decisively. In the Imperial War College, a statue was erected showing General Thex and General Stone standing together. The inscription read, "Victory teaches pride. Defeat teaches wisdom." On Earth, in the new Galactic Military Academy, Imperial teachers worked alongside human instructors, each learning from the other. The first class of joint graduates included both humans and Imperial citizens, all trained in both cultures' military traditions. General Stone, speaking at their graduation, summed up the lesson of the war. "The greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy, it's turning them into allies. The Empire learned the price of pride, and humanity learned the value of restraint. Together, we're stronger than either of us could be alone." In his retirement, General Thex often sat in his garden, watching ships from both civilizations pass overhead. His final diary entry read, "Sometimes the most important battle is the one you prevent. The Empire lost a war but gained wisdom. Humanity won a war but chose peace. Perhaps that's the greatest victory of all. The galaxy had changed forever, and it was better for it.